Hello. Hello, everybody. It is very, very lovely to be here. Welcome to this live masterclass. We are very excited today to be joined by Dani Owens from Content Amigo and Pigzilla. So today, Dani is going to share her expertise on local website content, and she's going to give us lots of resources and ideas along the way. So remember, this session is recorded, and you'll receive the recording straight into your inbox when we're finished. And you can also find this on our YouTube channel. So when we have finished today, we're going to fit a lot in. But when we finish today, if you want to continue the conversation, make sure that you join our Facebook community, the local pack, which is where you can chat with 4,000 other local marketers. So let's say hello to Dani.
Hey, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
We're so happy to have you here. Hello. Dani, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes. So I've been doing local SEO for quite a while now. I had a full service SEO consultancy where we would do basically everything for local SEO, but now I've been transitioning into just content only for local SEO. And then hopefully we'll be getting into some local links in the future. But that's the gist of what I'm into these days.
That's fantastic. And I've always admired all of your resources and the fact that you are such a tremendous all-rounder when it comes to local. So it's interesting that you're niching down. Thank you for sharing all of your insights and resources with us over the years.
Of course.
Because you're brilliant. So we have had a couple of these live masterclasses now, and I love them because we get to take a real deep dive into the knowledge areas and the passions of our guests. And we do them because it's a really nice way to, give you lots of new ideas, come up with some tactics and processes that you might not have thought about or know about. So today we are going to be talking all about local website content. And your masterclass is going to run for about 30, 40 minutes. Okay. And then I am 1,000,000% sure that we're going to get quite a lot of questions coming in as well. So audience out there, as you have your questions, please remember just to tap them in, and we will come to as many as we can after the session. So just tap them in with a Q at the front into the live chat, and then we'll answer as many as we can. So without further ado, I would like to hand over to Dani with her presentation.
All right, thank you. Let's get started. So yes, we're going to be talking about website content for local SEO, anything that's on the website itself, strategies also for scaling this content process. So let's get started. I also want to mention there's a link at the bottom of each slide, contentamigo.com/EEAT, and that's where all of the resources, including the slide deck, are going to be stored if you want to access them, because a lot of information is going to be covered. So I think you'll want to check that out. So before we get started really about how to optimize local SEO content and create it, I think it's important to discuss what Google's algorithm cares about. Some recent information came to light, and it's important to go over that. So in 2020, the Justice Department in the United States filed a civil antitrust suit against Google for monopolizing search and search advertising. So this forced Google to turn over documents to the Department of Justice about how the search engine worked. And so we have some clues in there. Now, keep in mind, these are older documents, but I still think they're very important. So if you read through the documents, you're going to see that Google cares about basically three things: on page, or what the page body itself talks about, links and anchor text, and then also the user interactions or engagement metrics. So your website's content can affect all three of these things, and that's why I wanted to point this out. So here's one of the slides from the actual documents, an internal Google document talking about the 3 pillars of ranking, which is once again the body of the content, the anchors, and the user interactions. So the body, let's talk about that a little bit. What does the document say about itself is what Google has mentioned. So there's things like the page titles, meta descriptions, internal links, and all that can help, but also the headings are very important, and the topics, entities, and keywords that are mentioned on the page are very important for ranking. So some tools that I personally enjoy that can help with those topic and entities selections to include in the content are ClearScope, Surfer, On-Page, and InLinks. I like ClearScope, and that's what we use at Content Amigo for now, but all of these tools are really great. And what they do is they look at the top ranking pages for a given keyword, and they see what type of topics or entities were mentioned on those, and they give you recommendations for including them in your own content as well. Then the anchors, we won't talk about this a ton, but Google mentioned, what does the web say about the document? So anchor text describes the page that's being linked to. So that is actually what Google considers what the web says about a document, right? So the backlinks to the website and the anchor text is very important. But I also know that internal links and the anchor text can also have an impact. So that's why I'm mentioning this here. You generally have control over your internal links, but not as much with the backlinks. And then your user interaction. What are users saying about the document? So for example, Cyrus Shepard was tweeting about this. That could be attention. So hovering on the search results or hovering on different results, actually clicking through, scrolling through the content. And also, if you go back to the search results and start over, that's an indicator to Google that this result might not be satisfying to the users, what they're looking for. So you want to keep this in mind when it comes to creating your content. Here's a nice slide from the deck. Also, just reiterating that there's, clicks and attention and scrolls and all that kind of stuff. All right, so what do users say about the document? Well, let's talk about what metrics can kind of give you an idea of that engagement. So we don't have anything official we can use, but we can look in things like Google Search Console for clicks or click-through rates to see, are these pages getting a decent amount of clicks? That could be an indicator about how good the content is. Pages per session, to me, that means, once they're on the site and they're going to other pages, if they're finding those valuable, they'll keep browsing on the website, and that can let you know if your overall content is helpful to the user. Time on site is similar to that. How long are they actually staying on the site? Is it 10 seconds? They leave because they don't like the content, or are they finding value and staying on the website? In addition to that, there's bounce rate. Now, this can be a little hard to use because let's say somebody's Googling a phone number for a business. They could land on the site and get the phone number and leave within 10 seconds. So it doesn't necessarily mean that a high bounce rate is bad. It just means that you can use that to consider what engagement you're getting on the site. You can also customize the bounce rate based on certain things using Google Analytics. And then scroll tracking, I think, is interesting. You could use Google Tag Manager to track how far down they're scrolling on your content. Because if they're not, that might give you an indicator that the content's not really that great. They're not even taking the time to read the article. All right, so these are some tips to increase your engagement with your content. Having good core web vitals, which is a tool from Google you can use to check site speed and things like that. Obviously, having responsive design, that's a really old topic, but I feel like we have to mention it still. So that means if somebody's on a mobile phone and they're looking at your website, does it look good? Can they go through the website quickly and easily and find what they need, right? Reducing ads and interstitials, which are pop-ups. You don't want to have too many of those because they can decrease user interaction or engagement. And then also linking to related articles in the body of the content or even in the sidebar. I think that is something that I enjoy doing. So here's an example of what that could look like. So you'll see the purple box is a recommended article that's in the body that could keep people on the site longer. And then the right is a sidebar to an important link that I wanted to share, for example. So you can incorporate these into your website to Try to keep people more engaged when they're looking through your local SEO content. All right, now let's talk about the types of website content for local SEO. This is the more important thing that you're probably here to talk about, right? So home pages, duh, super important. Service pages. These are pages where you're talking about the different services you provide. So those are critical because when people come to the site, they want to know, do you offer what I'm looking for? And then there's a lot of different location-based types of pages. So for example, you can have state pages, you can have a regional page, city page, or even a neighborhood page. But the most common that you'll see are location pages and service area pages. And so what those are is, let's say I have a business, like a plumbing business, and I have 3 offices. I might have 3 different location pages that show the name, address, phone number of those actual locations. Or if I don't actually have physical offices, but I travel to those locations, I can create service area pages. And those service area pages obviously are just talking about the areas you service. So those are really important for local SEO. FAQ pages, they're not necessarily huge for local, but I think they should be mentioned because they do help encourage people to convert. If they can find an answer to the question, then they might reach out to you for your business or your service. Testimonials and reviews, that's definitely important because people want to know what kind of experiences other people have had with your business. So you definitely want to have a page like that. Practitioner pages. So this is more for like if you're a doctor or a chiropractor or a practitioner of some kind, you'd want to have a dedicated page for each person on the team. You can also use that strategy for people that aren't a practitioner. Let's just say it's a manager or something at the business that people might be interacting with regularly. They could still technically have a practitioner page. I'd call it more of a bio page. And then we have blog articles. Blog articles are super important for local. I don't know if people generally are thinking about blog content when it comes to local, but you can choose a lot of great topics on your blog. Excuse me, just one second here. All right, so. And feel free to interrupt, Claire, at any point if you have anything to share.
This is all. This is all good. I'm listening at the moment.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Here's a table I created that these are the main pages that we use at Content Amigo that we make for our clients. So I think this is helpful to differentiate the type of page, maybe what the funnel stage or the intent is, the main goal, and what types of businesses use them. So blog articles, let's start with that one. Generally, those are the top or middle of the funnel stage where somebody has just trying to learn something about a topic, like how do I change my AC filter, right? It's not necessarily going to convert them right away, but it might capture their interest and you can now build trust with that topic. And hopefully they'll contact you in the future to do business. So the intent of that is informational. They're looking for information. The main goal would be to educate the reader. And the type of businesses that benefit from this would be e-commerce or online only, or even obviously local businesses, that matters. Service pages are more middle to bottom of the funnel, more commercial related, because they already know what service they're looking for, and now they're shopping around for that service. So what you want to do on those pages is explain the details of the service being offered. And then that's also e-commerce or online business and local businesses would benefit from service pages. Location pages and service area pages are also kind of middle to the bottom of the funnel because they might be looking for a specific, an HVAC contractor in Tampa. They know more about what they're looking for. And so on the location page, you want to talk about the physical location of the business. And then the service area page, you'd be talking about what areas that you service. And those are also really great for local businesses. So I'm sorry, I'm just having my nose is running here. I got to use a tissue. I apologize. All right. Practitioner page. Once again, we talked about those. Those are kind of like a bio page. Those are more top or middle of the funnel. They're just trying to find information like who is this company? Who is this doctor? You can use those pages to help people get to know your team. And that could be for an e-commerce or online business, or local business. Now, product pages, some local businesses will have product pages, but generally it's more of like an e-commerce or an online option. And those are middle to bottom of the funnel, more commercial intent. And there you want to show off what product is being sold. And then there's also product category pages, which is very similar, where you show off the product of a certain category, right? So you could say, these are all of our HVAC equipment, for example, that you could purchase from us.
I have got a question for you, actually, from the previous one. So a question that I get asked quite regularly, and something that I've thought about myself, is this idea about using blog posts, a post if you're using WordPress, I guess. It's that whole idea of page versus post, especially when you think to yourself, if you're educating readers on a topic, should that be evergreen content that should be in some kind of topical hub written on a page rather than as a post? And is there some sort of inference that if it's a blog post, it's time, date stamped, therefore might not always be seen by Google as being relevant?
Yes, so I've seen discussions on both sides. So I don't think it's a huge differentiator. I actually remember, I think it was Phil Rozek's website, Local Visibility System. He had an actual article on that topic saying that blog posts, I believe it was blog posts, could perform slightly better for educational content like that. But it's been so long, I don't remember off the top of my head. So yes, so generally what I do is you can choose a blog to store all that educational content, and then, or you could just choose pages where you create a hub. I think it's splitting hairs, to be honest, because the published date, whether it's on the page or not, Google's still going to see that. So I think it's just a matter of preference and depending on your CMS and what's easy to do. The nice part about, like for example, WordPress blog settings, it already has the categories set up and all that kind of thing where you can tag articles and they're easily sortable. But when you're using pages, it doesn't necessarily have that built in. And so you'd have to do some customization. So I think it would come down to more of, what's easy for you to scale and manage it probably.
Okay.
Thank you. That's a very good topic. That's a good question. Maybe
we could do some testing.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's do that.
Yeah. All right. Now, using AI to create content for local SEO, let's talk about AI. So this is from Google's developers support documents saying, when it comes to automatically generating content, our guidance has been consistent for years. Using automation, including AI, to generate content with the primary purpose of manipulating rankings and search results is a violation of our spam policies. Appropriate use of AI or automation is not against our guidelines. This means that it is not used to generate content primarily to manipulate search rankings, which is against spam policies. So obviously, if you're abusing AI to just create a ton of content that's very poor quality, at some point, Google could discover that and do something about it. I think for most local businesses, this is not going to be an issue. I just don't think they're going to be going crazy like that, right? But I do want to mention it here that they're saying appropriate use of AI is totally fine. It's not against the guidelines. So these are just some risks that I personally throw out there when it comes to using AI that people should be aware of. Doesn't mean you can't use it, but you could end up wasting time and money. So generally speaking, content that's created mostly by AI may not rank well. Doesn't mean it's going to not rank well, but that's a possibility, right? So it could be that all the money that you threw into that and the time might be wasted. Now, I'm talking about poor quality, right? I'm not talking about you've used AI to write it, but now you've really used an editor, fact-checked, added really important things like images and references and things. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about poor quality AI content. There's also the possibility that AI could plagiarize some things. I haven't really seen this flat out, but I wanted to mention that because it is just, these AI writers are regurgitating things from the internet. So that's always a small risk. You want to double check the content for sure after it's written. And then I think this one's the most important is you could actually lose users or visitors because your content's not accurate. Like I've seen articles that you can tell have been written by AI. They're very poorly written. and they're not factually accurate. And I'm like, I'm not using that website anymore. So right now, AI writers have this thing called hallucinations where they just fabricate facts. So that's really important. If you're using AI to write your content, you need to be reviewing it and fact checking it. You cannot just have the AI tool write it and then just auto publish to WordPress or whatever the case is, right? And then John Mueller from Google does say that content written by AI falls under the category of auto-generated content, which could lead to a manual penalty. But once again, that's not going to happen if you're doing it responsibly and ethically. I think this is just for people that get really out of control with it. And they just have to put that out there to kind of scare people. So let's talk about what are appropriate uses of AI. For local website content, brainstorming ideas, it's a really helpful tool. If you also have writer's block, you can use AI to help you overcome that. Generating content outlines or the headings for your content can be helpful. You can use it to write page titles or, inspire you to write page titles, cleaning up grammar, revamping and updating content, that can be helpful. I've seen Marie Haynes, which she's got a lot of great resources. She's mentioned using that in the past or experimenting with it. And then you can also use it to draft new content. So I say draft new content because I don't think anybody should just write AI content and then throw it out there, as I mentioned. So draft it. If you do use AI to write the content from scratch, make sure you actually read it, have an editor of some kind, and then fact check it. You have to do that if you want the content to be reliable and be worth all the effort that you've put into it, right? You want it to pay off. You're not just making it just cause, right? I hope not. All right, so how can you scale website content for local SEO? Let's say you have one location, 2, 3, maybe 100 locations. There's a lot of brands that even have thousands. So this is a very basic template that I share in the resource link at the bottom. What you can do is you can use Google Sheets for location pages or service pages based on different locations. So for example, all you would do here is the orange cells, you fill in the business name, state, and then the different cities, and it would auto-populate the headings, a little snippet about the company, service area, and the services, right? So this is a very simple template just to illustrate what you could do to scale the content. So when you look at this, but you can, make a copy and customize it for whatever you need. And then here's some other ways to do it. You can obviously train your own internal team of writers, and you create your content briefs, you assign them to them, and they can just get to work right away. You can also do the same thing with your clients. Clients really know the topic much better than you do usually. And so if they're willing to write the content, I think that's one of my favorite things, because I feel like you're going to get a lot of that experience and expertise that others might not have. So you can also create content briefs and give that to your clients and have them write the content according to, what headings or things like that you think should be mentioned in the copy. Obviously, you can outsource your writing to Content Amigo, perhaps. I don't know.
For example.
For example, there's a lot of services out there, so
No, we Content Amigo. It's a good call.
Thank you. I see ChatGPT, Phrase.io, and other AI writers can help you to scale your website content, as I mentioned, to draft that copy for you. And another way you can do that is also using Google Sheets and a tool like ChatGPT. So you could go back to this template, and you could have ChatGPT generate these cells, possibly with more unique content, so it's not exactly the same. Or after it's written, you can have it rewritten by ChatGPT to make it more unique. Obviously, reviewing it and fact checking it after. Again, please do that. All right. So when it comes to creating all of this content, like the Google Sheet example I gave you, all the content was duplicate. It was basically the same, except for the location name was swapped out. So does duplicate website content matter? Yes and no. Some have success with just switching out the location name, and some don't. It depends on how competitive it is, where you're targeting, all of that. So for example, if you had just 20 duplicate pages for all your locations, that's not that big of a deal necessarily and might work out for you just fine. But if you're doing 200 or 2,000, now you're starting to get into a lot more duplicate content that perhaps Google might read your whole website as not really that great of quality, because a lot of it is duplicated or similar, but that you don't know until you try it. Each case is different. If you have, my note here is if you're not seeing success with your duplicate content, or you'd like to satisfy the website visitors, create unique content. Because obviously just the duplicate content might not satisfy the user either. Even if it's performing well, you still want to make sure that once they're on there, they're getting the custom, unique information that they need. You know, each location might have different services or team members or things like that, or specials. And so that the uniqueness can also help with the engagement. So in my resource link that's in the footer here, I have these 3 links to pages about how to actually create more unique content. There's some Google Sheets templates that look like this. Essentially, the first tab is an intro. The second tab is configuration, where you're going to insert the business type, the location name, and the business name, for example. And it can create a nice content outline for this example is for, let's see, location pages. So the first column is giving you the template of what it's going to do. The second column is actually showing you what the headings would be for the page. The third column is the notes for each heading. And then the fourth column concatenates it and aggregates it all together in a nice content outline. So you could just copy column D and you could paste it into a content brief and then send it to your writers or your clients so that they have a really quick and easy way to create the content. So the templates will be for the service pages, location pages, and service area pages. Once again, you can customize it to your needs if you make a copy of the Google Sheet. Do whatever you want with it. So when it comes to creating local SEO website content that converts, what should you include on your pages? So I think this is really important, making the location targeting very clear. So it should be on your headings right at the top of the page, and definitely in the footer, having the address. I've seen pages where I go to a local business website and I don't know where they're based out of or where they service. And it drives me crazy. I have to go hunting to see, okay, go to their contact page and it doesn't have an address or even a city name. So I don't know. Do they service where I'm at? I don't know. Right. So that's really important. You also want to address the concerns. Why did they come to the site in the first place? You know, and then explain what can be done with the concern. So for example, once again, how this is a blog article example, but you could do this on service pages too. What is the concern? How do I change my AC filter? You can explain what needs to be done. People are afraid to give out the secret sauce on their websites a lot of times. So I'm not talking about proprietary, super detailed things that are going to make you go bankrupt if you shared it with people. I'm talking about very simple high-level solutions. So if you provide the solution of like doing it yourself versus hiring a professional, many people will decide not to do all that work and they'd rather just hire you. Plus, so think about that type of person, they're not going to hire you anyway because they're just looking for the answer, right? So it doesn't matter if they find your page or somebody else's, they're going to just do that no matter what. So if you show them how to fix the issue at a high level, they're going to trust that you know what you're doing and you just proved that you're a professional, that you're capable. And personally, I think they're more likely to contact you myself. And so you also want to make sure to include call to action options. So that could be text messages, phone calls, contact forms, or sending just an email to you. And then I think sidebar links to help keep users on the site are really important to helping people engage, but could also lead to conversions, depending on what you're looking for. So let's talk about an example of a service page and be a little more specific about helping the page convert. You definitely want to explain what the service is in layman's terms. Sometimes it can be too complicated. You want to make sure the average reader is able to understand what is the service that you're offering. And then describe the features and the benefits. You know, what's included, and then why is it beneficial for the person? So for example, changing your AC filter, you are going to have less debris, it's better for your health, better air quality, that kind of thing. Then you can go over the process if there is one. You can say, you know, for example, this is what we do. Let's say we're talking about maintaining your air conditioner. You can go over the process of first we, you know, measure this, we take a look at that and explain to them what's being included. Because other competitors might not be doing that. And it's just a very important part of the conversion process. And then tell them why you're the best choice. Obviously, that could be biased, but it could be true. So you want to tell them we're the best because we give you this kind of a warranty, or we've been doing this for 30 years, or we have so much business that there's a wait list, you know. You can share your credentials or your licenses that you have that are related to that service. I think that's super important. So for example, are you licensed as insured? Are you certified in something, and what organization certified you? I think that's super useful information. List the FAQs as well about the service. So, you know, if they're not sure that you can do what they're looking for, the FAQs could actually specify more and increase the conversions. I've done that many times. I've looked for FAQs on a site, and if they can't answer the question, I'm not necessarily going to convert, right? And just sign up right away or contact them. Now I have to email them asking, hey, do you do this? Which is, to me, just more of a pain. You definitely want to include reviews about the specific service on the service page if you can, even if it's just one, or you can call out a couple and then link to your overall reviews page. You can add photos of the service being done or the work being done by your team so they get an idea of what it looks like. That can be really important. And then you can even show off the team that's performing this service. So if you only have certain team members that do air conditioning installations, for example, on that AC installs page, you can call those people out. I think it adds a human touch and could help increase conversions if they look nice too, right? If the people look friendly, like, oh, you know, list related services they also might be interested in. So you could link to, well, we also do this at our company, check this out. And then of course, definitely include a call to action. That is what gets the conversion many times. I like to make it very clear. Sometimes it's, you know, free consultation or assessment, which can increase conversion rates as well. Let's see. I forgot to mention in the link at the bottom, I've included also these different checklists for the service pages, location pages, service area pages, and practitioner pages. Just these simple checklists like this. And we're going to talk a little bit about helpful content update and how it affects website content. So these are kind of like the high level general questions I have here, and then we're going to go into more details. So there's a lot of them, but did you read the content yourself? What value will visitors get from it? These are questions you can ask yourself to see, is this content high quality? Is it pleasing to what Google has shared in their documents of what they're looking for? Does it say the same exact thing as the top ranking pages? Or does it provide more value than those by addressing topics that are not included on top ranking pages? Are you creating content for people who will visit the site or just for search engines? Was the content written or reviewed by an expert or an enthusiast who knows the topic well? Does the content have factual errors? What is the page experience like for the visitor? Does the page load slow, or are there a ton of pop-ups and ads that are frustrating to the users? So these questions, like I said, is like a quick short checklist that you can use to just understand the concept of what is good quality, what is helpful content, right? Mm-hmm. But we'll go a little more into detail here. Oh, actually, let me talk about this real quick. This was interesting from Google's help documents for helpful content. Will removing unhelpful content help my other content rank better? They say that our systems work primarily at the page level to show the most helpful content we can, even if that content is on sites also hosting unhelpful content. That said, having relatively high amounts of unhelpful content might cause other content on the site to perform less well in search to a varying degree. Removing unhelpful content might contribute to your other pages performing better. What? So pruning useless content that isn't ranking or doesn't convert or lead to increased time on site, for example, may help you actually. So I do think when it comes to creating content, you also want to think about maybe removing content. Not going crazy, but just take a look at it and see if there's any content that's not really helpful. You could also improve that content. Before removing it, you could experiment by trying to make it better quality and using the helpful content EEAT checklist on them If those changes don't lead to better performance, then of course you could remove those pages. So these are a lot of questions we're going to go over from Google's help documents. This one section they have called content and quality, this is what's important. So is anybody self-assessing the content? I really feel like a lot of local businesses, they might not even really read through the content once it's made, right? I understand they're busy and trying to multitask things, but somebody should be reading the content. So whether it's somebody at the company or you hire, somebody, or you have an editor or something, that's just really important. It's kind of silly, but I really think that's a thing, Does the content provide original information, reporting, research, or analysis? That could really help your content stand out. If you have original information, if you do little studies or have statistics that you can include, that could be really great. Are you using extensive automation to produce content on many topics? That's kind of, abusing AI to scale content to a massive degree. Are you mainly summarizing what others have said without adding much value? Does your content leave readers feeling like they need to search again to get better information from other sources? So that's where Google's going to look and see, once they go to your site from the search results, do they go back and start clicking on other websites? Because your page doesn't have what they're looking for. Does your content promise to answer a question that actually has no answer, such as suggesting there's a release date for a product, movie, or TV show when one isn't confirmed? So clickbait, maybe that you could call that. I've seen that. I get to a page and it's supposed to answer this question and it's like, that doesn't even exist, or they haven't answered the question, which is going to encourage me to go back to the search results. And obviously Google over time is going to think this result is not great. So I would assume the rankings would go down for such a piece of content over time. So yeah, the clickbait might get them there, but over time it's not necessarily going to help you. All right, then they have an expertise section, which is important. Does the content present information in a way that makes you want to trust it, such as clear sourcing, evidence of the experts involved, background about the author or the site that it publishes it, such as through links to an author page or a site's about page? So these trust signals are really important. Evidence of the experts involved, mentioning what their credentials are, for example, which we might go into that a little more later, but you definitely want to share information about the author and why they're qualified to write, and then even linking to their author page or their bio, having a lot of great information is really important. If someone researched the site producing the content, would they come away with an impression that is well trusted or widely recognized as an authority on its topic? You could think, if you're just Googling the business name, what kind of brand awareness or recognition is out there? Are there no results for the business? Is there a lot of great sites where there's some reviews or information on them? I think that's really important. And then, is the site content written or reviewed by an expert or enthusiast who demonstrably knows the topic well? That's definitely important to Google. Obviously the readers. You can see a lot of health sites will do this, where they have, medically reviewed by this doctor and their credentials. So when it comes to local SEO content, you can still, reference experts. If it's a doctor or chiropractor that wrote the content, you can still, mention that. And then, does the content have easily verified factual errors? So you don't want inaccurate information to be out there. Google cares about what the popular consensus is. So if it's going against that, I'm all about, arguing both sides of topics, but Google is more cared about it lining up with the current consensus on the topic. And they do that because they don't, they want to protect people from misinformation and things like that. But, this is in their document, so I'm mentioning it. And then for the page or user experience, these are some questions in their documents. Do your pages have good core web vitals? Are your pages served in a secure fashion, with SSL certificates and things like that? Does your content display well on mobile devices, which is part of being responsive? Does your content avoid using an excessive amount of ads that distract from or interfere with the main content? Do your pages avoid using intrusive interstitials, which are those pop-ups? So there's so many websites where you're trying to read the content, right? There's a video at the top, you close it, then there's a pop-up at the bottom, you close it. That's what I'm talking about, right? Have I hit a pain point with you?
Oh, I just can't, especially new. I can't even click on some links. You're like, well, I'm not going to be able to consume that content. So there's no point even going there.
Exactly. And so a lot of these sites, they might have high bounce rates, low page, low time on site. So do you want to make money from ads? Yeah. But do you want to discourage people and send them away from your website? No. So hopefully most small local businesses are not putting these kinds of ads on their sites. Generally, that's like affiliate sites or content sites. But the interstitials could be kind of an issue. These pop-ups, you have non-stop pop-ups all over the place. That could be a little frustrating. And then is your page designed so visitors can easily distinguish the main content from other content on your page? So the design, it also kind of matters, right? So steps for creating website content for local SEO. This is our general process. Obviously, there's lots of different ways to do it, but this is what we like to do. We start with the basic keyword research, pretty boring, just looking up different keywords, checking the volume, checking what seems to be important. With local SEO, the keyword volume is not as important to me, to be honest, because if you're looking for, like I said, HVAC contractor in Tampa, there might only be a keyword volume of 50 versus, a national keyword is going to have thousands of searches. So the volume, you want to look at that. Maybe if you're going to use it to choose which keyword, if you have a list of them to pick out of them, but don't be discouraged by low keyword volume. I still think, because we're dealing with local SEO in a local area, you should still be creating that content, even if it has low volume, just depending on what the business needs are and what you're trying to get people to the site for. Then you also want to look at the keyword intent. You want to find out, is it for commercial intent or is it for information for the certain keyword? So when you create the content, you want the content to match the intent. If you create the wrong piece of content, it may never rank well at all. There's different tools out there that can help with this. I like keyword insights. They're very helpful. They'll show you, for a keyword, is it primarily like a product page that might be ranking, or is it more of an informational page? And then once you've chosen the keyword and you see the intent, you can decide what type of page should be created. So it's most effective. You don't want to just throw everything into a blog post, for example. You also want to look at the search engine results for that keyword. You want to see, what are these results talking about? One of the questions from the checklist earlier was, do you provide more information than just those results? So yes, you can regurgitate what they talk about. That can still be beneficial, but can you add something extra, like unique analysis, statistics, or another heading that they haven't talked about that can help your content stand out as unique and hopefully overtake those results? That would be nice. That's the goal, right? I think it also is very important to create a content brief. So instead of just saying, hey, this is the topic, we're going to write about it, you want to create a content brief that maps out all of the different headings that makes it easier to stay on topic and write. So that's where you can use tools like, there's a lot out there actually to create content brief outlines. You can do it manually, which we use a combination. Usually we're doing it manually. We do use keyword insights sometimes. Sometimes ClearScope will help you pull the top results to see some of the headings. There's a ton of tools out there if you need help scaling it, making it faster. Or you use some of the templates I shared earlier. You can just use some of those outlines. But it's just really important. You need to stay on topic and know, what are you talking about? Make sure that some of those entities and keywords are mentioned in those headings. Then obviously recommendations for on-page optimizations matter, like the page title, the meta description, the headings, once again, which I talked about just now, and then internal and external links with those important pieces of anchor text that we talked about that matter to Google. And we use humans to write our copy, not against the AI, like I said, but just if you draft it with AI, please have a human look at it and do something afterwards. So we write the content in ClearScope. Like I said, I think that helps with making sure the relevant entities and topics are mentioned. And then checking it for plagiarism. Using a tool can be very helpful. You want to make sure nothing was accidentally plagiarized or copied and pasted by somebody that you didn't know about, because the tools will let you know if there's anything else on the web that has that same exact piece of text. We also use an AI tool, AI checker. Those are actually, so far in my experience, don't work very well. I haven't seen them be super accurate, but we do it just as a formality, just to double check and make sure. So we have this offer here I'm throwing out there. You can get a $75 credit. We're doing all of this stuff for you. And then unfortunately, we're US based. The content we write is in English, but we don't do localizations for other countries just yet. But if you have clients that need content in the US, or you're okay changing the localizations later on your own, feel free. Hopefully we can change that in the future, but we're newer and just basically getting started. And then we're almost to the end where we can ask questions and talk. I'm doing good on time. Okay. But I did want to mention I'm building a local backlinks newsletter to try to help connect publishers and topic experts, so you guys can, connect and help create better content and maybe build some local backlinks. And so once again, this is only rolling out in the US for now, but there's a link there because I just want to know, do people like the process? Is it easy? How is the newsletter functioning for them? So if anyone wants to test it out, I would love some feedback. Okay.
Fantastic. I bet you'll get lots of people that want to try that. I'm not going to say loads of things because we've got lots of questions. I just want to say, 1, that was awesome. Thank you. 2, really there was so much information, and thank you very much for providing the link so people can go and they can go through all of those documents, because that's such a solid foundation for everyone to revisit either existing content or map out their new stuff. So thank you, Dani.
No problem.
Right. Shall we? Are you ready for some Q&A?
Yeah, I guess.
Always. Born ready. Right, let's see what we've got. Harrison asks, what content should you have, or what should you write about on your location pages?
All right. Let me go to my little checklist here, and I will run through some elements, including the location pages. So I don't think you can see my screen, but you can see me good right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I like to include, for the location pages, business name, address, and phone number. That needs to be on there clearly. Like, what is the actual location we're talking about, right? Where is the office or the business? And then if you can embed the Google business profile listing on the page, that's even better, because the driving directions, when people click on it and engage on the listing, it might be a ranking factor for the Google listing. But in addition, people are going to want to just know, where is the business, right? And then they're going to want to navigate to you. So you want to embed the actual listing itself. You don't want to go to Google Maps and type in the address and embed the address. You want to search for the actual listing itself and embed that. So there's a lot of tutorials out there how to do it. It's really easy. But once you're on the listing, there's an embed option, and then you just copy that code and paste it into the page. You're going to describe the overall business as a whole, and then you're also going to describe this actual location. You're going to discuss what services or products are offered at this location itself, because that could be different at each store or business. And then what I like to do is some more location-based content, like write about the city that the location is in. You can mention your favorite places in the city. You can even link or list partners or complementary businesses that you work with there. So, that's helping talk about the location itself for context for Google, but also the locals might find it beneficial. You can type out old school driving directions, like actually, turn left here, turn right here.
Love that.
That could be helpful too. And then inserting reviews or testimonials from customers in that city for that location could be really great. When you're collecting all your different reviews, you can segment them by the actual location that they're related to. You can add photos from employees or jobs at that location itself. And then I'll have to link to this. I didn't add it in the resources, but Phil Rozek has a great Google Sheet that helps you brainstorm what other things you could include in your location pages. So
Another good one for that, based on staff again, is I've seen some really good pages with like recommendations from staff of other geographically relevant things to do, places to. So yeah, anything that you can get firsthand from your human resources is really good. So the idea that you get your staff to write the content for that page is also quite handy. Right, what else have we got? Justin asks, sites with multiple service areas and services, how would you optimize for that? For example, roof repair, residential roofing, commercial roofing offered in Miami and Fort Lauderdale.
I love these questions. These are good. So if you're talking about just 2 locations, for example, you would create one service page for each service, like roof repair. And then in the page style, you could fit Miami and Fort Lauderdale. You could target both locations with just the one service page. The problem is if you have 10, 20, 30 locations, then that is a lot harder. So what some people do is they'll create one service page for each city, like roof repair, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach, St. Pete, Tampa, la, la, la. What happens is that can get really out of control. Like you could start getting into hundreds or thousands of pages, which can be excessive. Then you're concerned about the duplicate content, which you might not have to be concerned about. So it just depends on how many locations you're dealing with. Now that's where the service areas or location pages come in. So let's say you just make one service page for each service, but you have 10 locations. You can use the location pages or the service area pages to target all of those other cities, but you're only going to be able to target 1 or 2 main keywords. So you usually, for those pages, you do more of like the high level keyword. So instead of going into details about roof repair, residential roofing, commercial roofing, you could say something like roofing contractor in the page title. You'd have to target that high level head term on those location or service area pages if you're not going to create all those individual service pages themselves, all those different varieties of them. I still recommend making those unique if you can, which some of the templates, the Google Sheets can help you do that. It's a little more challenging, but hopefully I've answered the question. Did I make it clear?
Super, super, super duper clear. Thank you.
Okay.
Right. What have we got next? Dan asks, based on Google's user interaction signals, with blogs that have low engagement, would you suggest removing or editing or resubmitting for optimal benefit?
Yeah, I would say myself, I don't like to remove content if I don't need to. So I would recommend trying to edit the content, update it, revamp it, make it way, way better, and give that a shot for a while. And if that doesn't work, then yes, you could consider removing or pruning the content. And then as always, you don't always have to do this. Actually, if it's not performing well, you could redirect the page to something else as needed, or if you think it's important.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you. Best practices for internal anchor text, I guess.
Yeah. So internally, you can control the anchor text, generally speaking. Backlinks, that you don't have as much control over. You can be suggestive sometimes, but you can't control that, right? So we're talking about internal link anchor text. So whatever page you're linking to, you want to describe the page itself. Generally speaking, it would be similar to what the page title is. So is it roofing contractor in Miami? So you could use that as the anchor text. You don't want to use the exact same thing hundreds of times on the website. You do want to use a variety of anchor text. And obviously you want to link to it plenty of times. So a small business website that has a few locations, that might only be 30 links to it, throughout the website. If you have a huge business like Best Buy or something, we're talking about multi-locations, then you can have a lot more links to it that would make sense. But variety of anchor text. So you could say Miami roofing contractor in Miami. I'm blank right now. I just want my brain fried. But examples of using a variety, I've seen a study where they say the variety of anchor text can actually work better for you.
Cool. And it needs to read, you're trying to get people to actually click the link, so it needs to read naturally and not look spammy and full of keywords.
Yes, that's a very important point, actually. make it sound natural or interesting or attractive, you can encourage them to click through. But also, is it a relevant piece of content they're going to want to read or need, right? We have this guide, for example, you can click on here to continue learning about this topic or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, or it could be like you're on one page which is talking about roofing in, I'm not very good, I can only do towns where I live, in Haverfordwest, and you're like, if you're after roofing in Milford Haven, link to, but it's just like, think about the actual user journey rather than a magic number of internal links. Where might someone want to go to? Anyway, what's next? What's the best? Mark, hello Mark. What's the best way to help a user find the content they're looking for in a large article? Maybe an extractive AI button, I don't know what that is, to ask a specific question.
That's a good question too. So what I think is best way to help people find the content they're looking for in a large article is two things: a summary at the top, which you can summarize yourself and include the most important points you think people need, like TLDR kind of a thing. You can use AI to summarize the article as well. And the second thing I personally find the most beneficial is the table of contents that actually, when you click on each heading, it's got the anchor links in it and it scrolls down to that section of content, because people obviously browse the content looking at the headings a lot. So those two things are what I think are important. You mentioned an extractive AI button. I think you're asking basically for an AI tool that you could ask questions about the content, right? I'm sure there's things out there or they're in the process of being created, but I don't have anything off the top of my head yet. So.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think we've got time for maybe a couple more. What location should you rank the homepage for as opposed to the other location pages?
So that would depend on how many locations. Once again, if you just have one or two locations, definitely you can fit those in the page title. If you are, you have 50 locations in the whole state of Florida, then I would possibly just target Florida on the homepage. Or if all your locations are in one county, you can put that kind of targeting, maybe the county name, because each service or location page will actually start targeting those specific locations. But if you have locations all over and you're not going to use, the state or county, whatever your most popular or headquarter location is, you could put that in the targeting for the homepage as well. Like, your most popular, well-known, or the one that makes you the most money.
Yeah, for sure. With your homepage most likely being like the most powerful page on your website, it's worth testing, isn't it? And then I've had some clients that sort of the homepage or ended up cannibalizing other pages, but it all came down to which page converts the best. And sometimes you manage to get double visibility as well with two pages.
Yeah.
Okay, we have got time for one more. How do you measure the success of your content? For example, blog posts.
I like this one too. Okay, so when it comes to analytics, I think that's the most important. So you need to set up goal tracking or conversion tracking in Google Analytics or whatever tool you're using, because you really are caring about the conversions when it comes to a local business, generally speaking. So your conversions might be a phone call, a booked appointment, making a purchase, sending you an email, whatever that is. So once you have that set up, then you can look in analytics and see what is like the landing pages report. You go in there and see, okay, how many people landed on this page directly from Google search results? Then once they landed there, how many other pages did they go to? How long were they on the site? Did that encourage them? And then ultimately, did they lead to a conversion, right? That should be, generally speaking, one of the most important things to measure the success of the content. But yes, if you're just looking to see, the bounce rate or how long they're on the site, those metrics can be in analytics too. I'm sure there's a lot more metrics, but I think generally speaking, I like to see, did they land on the website and did they convert, from that page? You can see if it assisted in the conversions.
And just one more thing on that, as you were saying before, with the blog content, it's going to be people that are much higher up in the funnel. So when you're thinking of your conversion events, it's unlikely, you know, manage your own
Mhm.
expectations that they're unlikely to go ahead and make that final conversion event. So that's why it's useful to have
Mhm.
these little micro conversions. Did they sign up for a newsletter? Did they click out to one of your social media?
Yes. That's a great one. Did they sign up for the newsletter? Because yes, they might have not converted, but they're like, I'm interested. I want to stay in the
Yeah.
loop. You're on my
Yeah.
radar.
So what are the little conversion events? That sadly, although we have lots more questions, is we're all done, Dani. We're so sad. I am sad. I wish we could be here forever.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I got to do this, and I'm sorry there are a lot more questions, but hopefully you learned something from it and you can start making some website content.
I'm sure that I've definitely learned lots of things. It was brilliant. Thank you very, very, very much. It was amazing. Thank you for sharing your insight and your brain with us so freely.
Sure.
So for our audience, make sure you follow Dani. Are you on Twitter X much? You still there?
Yeah, that's basically
Yeah.
what I use for my business the most.
Okay, fantastic. We'll see you there. And here
Yes.
she is as well on LinkedIn. So make sure that you follow for lots more insight. So a big thank you to Dani and a big thank you to everyone that joined us live today. If you want to level up your local SEO skills, do not forget to sign up and enroll in the Bright Local Academy, because we've got courses on business listings, competitor analysis, content, service page, location page, and much, much more. And finally, remember to sign up for the newsletter so you can stay up to date with all the latest news and find out when the next Bright Local webinar will be. So we just need to say a big thank you again to Dani. Thank you, Dani.
Thank you, everybody. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And thank you for the nice, positive comments. I appreciate it.
They loved you. Of course they did. And goodbye. Goodbye.
All right. Bye.